My name is Rowan Hale, 36 years old. I sign off on eight-figure budgets for a living, but the thing I love most is a checklist with boxes I can actually tick. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, the little line items that make a life feel accounted for. After taxes and the retirement contributions I max out like a superstition, there was always a surplus, and somehow it kept moving outward, like the tide pulled by the gravity of my family. 4 years ago, I bought a modest three-bedroom on a quiet street where you could hear sprinklers before dawn and kids on scooters at dusk. Nothing flashy. A gray house with white trim, jasmine curling around the porch rail, the smell of coffee living in the grain of the kitchen cabinets. My parents, Linda and Robert, retired 2 years back. Dad from construction, hands shaped by hammers. Mom from nursing, a spine of steel hidden in a soft voice. Their pensions stretched like old elastic. I helped. I didn't mind. That's how I'd taught myself to love, line by line. Then there was my sister Emma, 7 years younger, newly married to Tyler, a man whose smile was a job all by itself. When Emma was in high school, I slipped 20s into her lunchbox for club fees and field trips. In college, it became textbooks. After graduation, first and last month's rent, a deposit for a dream apartment that had ceilings that leaked by the second week. The difference between almost and we're short. I thought of it as scaffolding. You put it up, they climb, then you take it down. No one told me scaffolding can turn into a permanent structure if you never say when. On paper, I was fine. Good salary, no kids. Dating never stuck. I'm allergic to performative charm, and Tyler's taught me what it looks like, the way he'd call me sis, as if he'd earned the right. The money kept flowing out on little currents that sounded reasonable in the moment. Just a haircut, the one place that actually gets my layers right. We want to try that ramen pop-up before it closes. Rent is tight for a couple months, the landlord's being a jerk. If you stack enough gists together, they build a wall you can't see over. 3 months ago, the neighborhood group chat lit up with ring camera clips of strangers checking doorknobs, packages vanishing, a window pried open 2 blocks over. My coworkers traded stories like baseball cards. Safeguard security, one of them said. They'll do the full perimeter, motion sensors, cloud storage. You can watch live on your phone. I pictured my porch in grainy grayscale, the way rain looks like static on surveillance. The full package, I told the installer. Better safe than sorry felt like insurance I could quantify. 8 cameras inside, 4 outside. The app turned my house into a grid of angles and timestamps. I didn't tell anyone. Not a secret exactly, just one of those adult choices that doesn't need a family group chat. 2 weeks later, I walked in after a long day, closing out quarter-end reports, and felt it. The displaced breath of a room that remembers you wrong. My coffee mug wasn't on the right side of the stove. It had left a faint ring on the island where I never put it. The couch pillows looked fluffed, not by me. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was building monsters out of air. I did the circuit anyway. Back door latch, windows, garage. Everything was locked. Everything where it should be, except for a feeling I couldn't file away. A few days passed. Work ran me like a treadmill on a bad incline. The unease ebbed until the corporate gala invitation demanded something silver and impractical, and I thought of the Prada clutch I'd bought last year, with the kind of reckless joy that is, in its way, a boundary. Top shelf of the closet. I stood on a chair, reached. Not there. I tore the closet apart like a puzzle with a piece missing. Guest room closet, hall closet, under the bed, the garage, where memory goes to lose its shape. Nothing. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, embarrassed alone in my own house. I called Emma. Did I ever lend you my silver clutch? The Prada one? I tried to sound casual, the kind of sister who misplaces designer bags all the time. What? No. Why would you even ask that? Her offense came too fast, preloaded. I can't find it. Thought maybe I... Rowan, if you'd lent me a Prada bag, believe me, I'd remember, and I would have returned it. Right, I said. Forget it. I must have put it somewhere weird. Maybe you tossed it when you did that declutter, remember? You went tornado on your closets. Yeah. I stared at the empty space where it should have been. Maybe. The next day, I bought a different bag I didn't like as much and pretended that was the end of the story. But it wasn't. Stories don't end with a second choice. They end when you stop lying to yourself. Weeks later, on a Saturday that smelled like lemon cleaner and dust, I pulled open the desk drawer in my home office and found the watch box my grandparents had given me for college. Velvet cradle, memory tucked into corners. The box was lighter than it should have been. Inside, air. I held the empty box in both hands, as if my grip could conjure weight. I hadn't worn that watch in months. I could see it in my mind, silver face winking under the desk lamp the last time I checked the time the old-fashioned way. I went room to room again. Ritual turned frantic. Nothing. I made coffee I didn't drink, sat at the kitchen table, and let my brain do the one thing it knows how to do better than math: pattern recognition. Once is absent-minded. Twice is unfortunate. 3 times is a system. The house had always been locked. The alarm armed. Keys. Me. A spare set with my parents for emergencies. The phrase that feels like love until it becomes an alibi. No, my family wouldn't. The thought arrived, and I didn't push it away. I opened my laptop, and the Safeguard app bloomed into grids and days, 90 of them. Time kept like a ledger. I scrolled. Tuesday, 2:47 p.m. Motion on the front door camera. I clicked. 2 figures approached the porch, shoulders close. I watched them use a key. Enter as if the air inside belonged to them. The hallway light catching in hair I knew. A jacket I'd seen on Thanksgiving. My hand hovered over the trackpad, ready to pause, as if pausing could change the facts. I zoomed in on their faces, even though my body already knew what my mouth would refuse to say out loud. I leaned closer to the screen, the blue light printing itself on my cheekbones. The clip shifted to the living room camera, Tyler stepping into frame, scanning the room the way men like him scan restaurant checks to see who will reach first. Emma brushing past him, heading down the hall like she'd done it before. I clicked back to the front door angle, frame by frame, until the moment their faces turned just enough to be undeniable. The cursor trembled under my finger, a small private earthquake. Say it, I told myself, as if my voice could notarize the truth. I hit pause. The image froze with the thin cruelty of a passport photo. Emma. Tyler. I didn't exhale. Not yet. I let the silence expand until it pressed against my ears. Then I dragged the timeline back 3 days, then 2 weeks, and then further, hunting for the first time, a key met my lock, like a promise kept to the wrong person. My laptop fan kicked on. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator hum, counting seconds. I clicked play again. In the next clip, someone disappeared down the hallway toward my bedroom, a tote bag slung over her shoulder like a dare. I stared at the screen, index finger still hovering, and understood that the feeling I'd been filing under paranoia had simply been my nervous system telling me the math didn't add up. I watched my sister open my door. I watched my brother-in-law stand where I was sitting now and look around as if inventorying my life. I finally let myself breathe, slow and sharp, like stepping into winter air. Okay, I said to the empty kitchen. Okay. I dragged the cursor to a different day, the week the clutch went missing. And there Emma was, laughing as she held it up to the mirror, Tyler giving her a thumbs up like a personal shopper on commission. The clip ended with the bag disappearing into hers, neat as a magic trick. I scrolled forward to the Saturday of lemon cleaner and dust and found the home office feed. Emma opening the desk drawer, the watch box, the way she called Tyler over to look, his mouth shaping approval, her hand sliding the watch into her purse, careful, practiced, unhurried. I paused again, not because I needed proof, I had proof, but because looking away felt like erasing myself. Then I went back, all the way back, to the earliest available video, searching for the first trespass I could never unsee. The grid filled with timestamp squares, each one another small betrayal. I wasn't ready to cry, and I wasn't ready to scream. Accounting has taught me a third option: document. I opened a spreadsheet, date, time, items taken, location. I typed the first line, and then the next, and the next. Each cell a tiny gravestone for a version of me that had believed generosity would be repaid with gratitude. Outside, the sprinklers came on 2 doors down. Inside, I clicked on the newest clip and watched the front door swing open again. I let it run in silence until the frame captured Emma's face perfectly, as if the camera knew I needed one still shot where there could be no doubt. It's them. The word family tasted like metal. The first entry in my spreadsheet read like a receipt. Wednesday, 2:47 p.m., front door, unauthorized entry with key, duration 32 minutes, itemized, sweater, cashmere, Perfume, half full, bottle of Pinot from the kitchen rack. My hands moved en route while my mind stood very still, like the pause between a judge's gavel and its echo. I rewound and fast-forwarded through my own life as though it were a training video. Emma easing open drawers with 2 fingers, Tyler lingering in thresholds like a bored security guard, eyes cataloging. By the time I documented the 6th incident, a shape emerged, not just what they took, but how. Emma tried things on. That was the cruelty. The silver clutch became a prop. She posed with it, laughing, shoulder angled, chin tilted, Tyler's thumb raised in the corner of the frame as if he were approving a purchase order. When she lifted my grandmother's watch from its velvet bed, she didn't pocket it. She summoned Tyler to admire the weight, the cool blaze of the face. Theft as shopping, theft as date night. I added a notes column. Emma poses in mirror. Tyler signals approval. Targeted heirloom. The language steadied me. 12 incidents in 90 days. Jewelry, cosmetics, 2 pairs of shoes, the laptop sleeve I'd been sure I left at the office, 3 bottles of wine, a tablet I kept for travel, and the old cashmere sweater I wore when work bled long into evening and I needed softness to remember my edges. Estimated total, a little above $10,000. The number made something sour bloom in my mouth, not because of money, because numbers are what I wield to make the world logical, and here they only measured disrespect. I could have called immediately. The app had a share button that made me want to laugh out loud. Would you like to share this highlight with friends? But rage is a blunt instrument, and I prefer scalpels. I sent a dinner invitation instead. Pasta, a bottle of Chianti, nothing too nice to invite commentary. Emma texted back a heart. Tyler replied with a flexed bicep. I changed all the camera angles to live view while I set the table, the screens like little windows in my peripheral vision. The front door clicked at 7 on the dot. Hey, sis, Tyler sang, holding out a grocery store cake with chocolate cursive that said congrats for no one in particular. Emma hugged me too hard and too fast, lips grazing my cheek, eyes slipping past me to sweep the room. So practiced, I nearly admired it. You look tired, she said. You working too much again? I'm fine, I said, and almost added, you took my watch. But I was done offering confessions to people who use them like tools. We ate. I kept the conversation on rails. Work small talk, a story about my boss's obsession with color-coded spreadsheets, a mention of the neighborhood watch chat. Emma smiled in the right places. Tyler jumped in to perform a story about a client who stiffed him once. Big gestures. The victim's swagger. He'd been laid off. I knew now, but he didn't say it yet. He let the void sit there like bait. At the halfway point, I placed my fork down and folded my hands. I learned that gesture watching my therapist on YouTube before I found a real one. The visible pause that tells the other person we're switching lanes. Some of my things have gone missing, I said. A designer bag, jewelry, a few smaller electronics. I've turned the house upside down. I can't find them. Emma's fork stalled midair. Tyler's eyes did a quick scan of the visible surfaces, then returned to his plate, where he began to quarter his chicken breast with surgical precision. Missing? Emma echoed, performing confusion. Rowan, you always misplace stuff. Remember when you texted me from the parking garage because your car keys were in the freezer? One time, I said, keeping my voice even, when I was 22. She laughed, a little too loud. You work too much. You put things in weird places. I looked at Tyler. He met my gaze and held it. Big accusation to imply we know anything about that, he said. You got proof? The word proof landed between us with the weight of a brick. I let the silence expand until it felt like a stage cue. Then I stood, took my phone from the island, and mirrored the screen to the TV above the mantel. The living room filled with my front door in grayscale. The timestamp glowed. Emma's face, Tyler's profile, the key turning in my lock. I forwarded to the clutch, the laugh, the mirror pose, the thumbs up, and then to the office drawer. The watch gleaming like a small moon in a careful hand. No one spoke. The only sound was the quiet spin of the ceiling fan. When I paused on the frame of Emma sliding the watch into her purse, she said very softly, You're filming us without permission. That's illegal. I didn't look at her. I watched Tyler instead, because he would decide the next move. His smirk came on like a dimmer switch. So we borrowed a couple things, he said. You have plenty. We were going to return some of it. After you wore it, I said. What's yours is mine, right? Emma tried, voice small, eyes hunting for a softer landing. Family. No, I said, not anymore. There's a way anger can make your voice go theatrical. I kept mine on the narrow path. I didn't slam anything. I didn't cry. I stood at the end of my rug and spoke like a woman confirming a delivery order. You have 7 days, I said. Return everything on this list or transfer $10,000 to my account for restitution. If you don't, I will file a police report. I have timestamps, clear faces, and a spreadsheet. If you think I won't, make the week count. Emma laughed then, a ragged, incredulous sound. You'd call the police on your own sister? I would, I said, and heard in my own voice what I hoped she heard too, the click of a door locking. Come on, Tyler said, leaning back, throwing an arm across the sofa as if he owned the air between us. 10 grand? That's a shakedown. Restitution, I said, plus the wine you drank. You're being dramatic, Emma said, and there it was, Mom's phrase, hereditary, recited like catechism. You know we've been struggling. You make so much. You don't even notice when things go missing. I noticed, I said. I notice everything. Tyler's jaw tightened for the first time. If you had a problem, you should have said something before spying on us. I installed cameras because the neighborhood had break-ins, I said. You broke in. With a key, he snapped. My key, I said. He stood then, cakes of muscle tightening into posture, and for a beat I saw the man he performs for the world, stripped of his grin, all edge and grievance. You want to burn this bridge over a bag and a watch, he said. It's not a bridge if I built it by myself, I said. It's a pier, and I'm done walking out over water to meet people who won't swim. Emma pressed fingers to her eyes like a headache. Rowan, please, don't do this. Mom will... Tell Mom I'm being dramatic, I said. She already knows that line. A spark went through Emma's face then. Hurt, yes, but something else too. The calculation of someone who's never had a door closed to her and is trying to remember where she put the spare key. 7 days, I said again, picking up a folded sheet of paper from the coffee table and handing it to her. Typed list. Dates, items, estimated values. The neatness insulted her more than the accusation. I could see it. Tyler crumpled the paper without looking. We're not paying you a dime, he said. You want a scene with cops? Make one. See how that plays in the family. Then we're done here, I said, because offering them the door felt like the only kindness left that I could afford. They left with the cake still on my counter. The door closed with a solid thud I wanted to bottle. The sound of boundary. I didn't follow them with my phone. I didn't watch the camera feed of them walking down my driveway. I went to the kitchen, rinsed the plates, finished my glass of Chianti, and opened the Notes app to paste the spreadsheet into a new message addressed to Emma, to Tyler, and, after a breath, to my parents. I attached 3 clips. I typed, return everything or transfer $10,000 by Friday at 5:00 p.m. If not, I file a police report with evidence. This is not a negotiation. I read it twice to strip out apology, a third time to excise any adverbs. Then I hit send. My phone began vibrating before I'd set it down. Emma's name flashing, then Mom's, then a number I didn't recognize that would be Dad, who hates phones but loves lectures. I set the device face down on the counter. The quiet inside the house seemed to deepen, as if the walls had exhaled. In the living room, the paused video still held Emma mid-gesture, hand arced toward her purse, an endless loop I could unpause whenever I wanted to remind myself what was true. I picked up the remote and turned the TV off. The screen went black, reflecting the room back to me. Just me. For the first time in a long time, that didn't feel like a deficit. On the way to bed, I stopped by the front door and laid my palm flat against it. The wood was cool, as if the evening had been pressed into it. 7 days, I said to the door, to myself, to the clock that had just started ticking. Upstairs, in the dark, the house settled around me. Somewhere a pipe clicked. Somewhere a camera watched an empty hallway. Time moved forward, measurable, merciless, mine. The message detonated a chain reaction I could track in vibrations on the counter. Calls I didn't answer. Texts stacking like bricks, each one heavier than the last. Emma started with fury. You violated my privacy. You're sick. Then swung into pleading. Please, Rowan, don't ruin us. Before circling back to venom. Tyler's messages were leaner. Good luck proving anything in court. Cameras are illegal without consent. We'll sue. He always knew how to turn intimidation into punctuation. Then Mom's name appeared. I braced. "You will not drag family into the dirt with police," her first text read. "Your sister makes less money. You flaunt what you have. You tempt her. If you go through with this, your father and I will cut you off completely. Do you understand?" I stared at the words until they blurred. Temptation, like I was a fruit she couldn't help plucking. Not theft, not betrayal. My abundance was the sin. Dad sent only one text, blunt as concrete, very disappointed in you. No explanation, no question, just verdict. By Tuesday, my Aunt Patricia called, her voice gentle, curious. "Rowan, your mother says you're having some kind of episode, threatening Emma? That can't be true." "It's true," I said, "and I have video proof." There was a pause, long enough for me to hear the clink of her teacup against the saucer. I just can't imagine Emma stealing. "You don't have to imagine," I said, and hung up before the conversation tilted into pity. The days dripped by. My spreadsheet became a metronome. Every morning I updated it with notes, cross-checked footage, highlighted what had been taken and when. Work blurred into autopilot. My real project was counting down. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The week like a rope, fraying one thread at a time. On the 7th day, my phone buzzed with a text from Emma at 10:12 a.m. "You're bluffing. You'd never call the cops on your own blood." At 12:45 p.m., on my lunch break, I drove to the police station. The fluorescent lobby hummed. The officer at the desk, Martinez, his badge read, was younger than me, calm in that trained way. I handed him my phone. "I have 12 clips," I said. "Timestamps, entry with a key, stolen property, total value over 10,000. He scrolled, his eyebrows lifted once, then reset. "This is clear. We'll take your statement. Do you know where the stolen items are likely kept?" "Their apartment," I said, "or my parents' house." He wrote it down. "We'll send officers to recover what we can. You'll need to identify items if located, otherwise it proceeds as a theft case." When I left, the sunlight outside looked unfamiliar, too bright for the decision I'd just signed my name to. At 6 that evening, pounding shook my door. I froze the pasta water mid-boil, heart thumping like an alarm. "Rowan, open this door right now!" Dad's voice, angrier than I'd ever heard it. "Please," Mom's voice followed, high and wet. "They arrested Emma and Tyler. How could you?" I stood on the other side of the wood, hand on the knob, but not turning. "They're thieves," I said, voice steady. "Thieves get arrested." "She's your sister," Mom wailed. "And that should have mattered to her when she was emptying my drawers," I said. "This is cruel. You're cruel," Dad thundered. "Return my money," I said quietly. 10,000 for what they stole, and I'll withdraw the complaint." "That's extortion." "No, it's restitution. Your choice." Their shouts lasted 10 more minutes before retreating into the night. The silence afterward rang louder than the yelling. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed with a transfer notification. $10,000. From my parents' account to mine. No note. Saturday morning, I walked back into the police station. Officer Martinez nodded when I told him. "Charges can be withdrawn. They'll be released shortly." I signed the papers, my hand steady this time. At home, I did something ceremonial. Opened every auto payment window on my laptop and began canceling. No more grocery money wired to my parents. No more utility bills covered. No more rent deposited into Emma and Tyler's account. Line by line, I erased myself from their ledgers. Then I blocked them. Phones, emails, social media, all of it. A clean break, as if I were cutting live wires before they could spark again. The house went still. The silence had weight, but for the first time, it wasn't pressing down on me. It was lifting. I stood by the front door one more time, hand pressed to the wood, and whispered to the empty house, "Never again." For the first time, I believed myself. The quiet didn't last. Even with my phone sealed shut against their numbers, news leaked in like water through hairline cracks. Aunt Patricia became the channel. She called from a different number 2 weeks after I blocked everyone, her voice subdued. "Rowan, I owe you an apology," she said. "Your mom showed me the video. Emma and Tyler, well, there's no denying it now. I can't believe it, but I see it." I didn't answer right away. I'd waited half my life for someone in my family to say those words. I see it. Patricia exhaled. "They moved in with your parents. Can't afford rent anymore. It's tense. And Rowan, it's not just you. My daughter Rachel realized her gold bracelet disappeared after Emma visited last year, and your Uncle Tom swears some of his tools went missing after Tyler helped with a project. They've been at it for a while." My laugh came sharp, involuntary. So I wasn't crazy. No, you weren't, she said softly. But your mom, she still defends Emma. Says you were cruel, that you've cut them off. She asks about you, though. The ache stirred, old and stubborn. She chose her, I said. They all did. Patricia hesitated. I think they're hoping you'll come around, but I get it if you won't. I won't, I said, and meant it. Therapy came after. I found a counselor downtown, a woman with kind eyes who had me trace my history, not in events, but in roles. Parentified child, she said, naming the wound. You've been carrying your family's weight since adolescence. They trained you to believe your worth is measured by what you provide. And Emma? I asked. She was trained to receive, she said simply. Both roles are traps. The truth hit harder than any accusation ever had. A trap. And I had walked in willingly, locking the door behind me. One evening, a letter arrived. Actual mail. Blue ink in Emma's loopy handwriting. Rowan, I'm sorry. I know what we did was wrong. Tyler convinced me you wouldn't notice, that you had so much already. I was jealous of your nice things, of the house. That doesn't excuse it. I'm working now, trying to pay Mom and Dad back for what they gave you. It'll take me years, but I want you to know I'm trying. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm sorry. Love, Emma. I read it 3 times. Every line a mixture of confession and deflection. Tyler convinced me. I was jealous. Excuses dressed as apologies. And nowhere did she say she'd return what she stole, or that she was sorry for calling me cruel when I demanded respect. I dropped it in the trash. Some words don't weigh anything, no matter how many times you read them. Then came the ambush. A Thursday afternoon at work, security buzzed my office. Miss Hale, there's a woman here to see you. Says she's your mother. My stomach pinched. Tell her I'm not available. She says she'll wait. She can wait all day, I said. An hour later, another call. She's still here. She says she has something for you. I almost broke then. Almost. But I pictured the text, the silence from Dad, the transfer of money that came with no acknowledgement of wrong. I pictured Mom's words, "You tempt her," and I said, "If she's not gone in 10 minutes, call the police for trespassing." By nightfall, the lobby was empty. When I got home, a cardboard box sat on my doorstep. No note. The tape was neat, corners folded with a nurse's precision. Inside, my silver clutch, grandmother's watch, a few pieces of jewelry, maybe a quarter of what was taken. I sat cross-legged on the floor, the watch cool and heavy in my hand. Relief tangled with rage. They thought this was enough. A token. A compromise. But it wasn't about the watch. Not anymore. It was about the night they laughed at me across my own dinner table. The way Mom had called theft temptation. The way Dad said only disappointed. The way Emma's apology letter still leaned on excuses. I placed the watch back in its box and set it on the shelf. It belonged here. But my trust belonged nowhere near them again. The house hummed with its cameras, my quiet sentinels. I walked room to room, lights off, listening to the silence like it was teaching me something. And maybe it was. Some things return, but not enough. Some things are gone forever, and that has to be okay. Because freedom was worth more than forgiveness. And I wasn't about to trade it back. Freedom wasn't the explosion I thought it would be. It was quieter. It settled into my days the way sunlight finds corners in a room, slow, steady, almost unnoticeable, until one day you realize everything looks different. I built a new rhythm. Work. Early morning runs through the neighborhood while sprinklers arched over sidewalks. A Thursday book club I'd always said no to because family needs came first. I changed my emergency contact at work to my friend Jessica. For the first time in years, my name wasn't tethered to theirs in any system that could demand I drop everything to rescue them. And then there was Marcus. We met at a gallery opening. Jessica dragged me to. He was standing by a painting of an ocean at night, hands in his pockets, studying it like he was listening for waves. He asked if I liked it. I said it made me want to breathe slower. He smiled and said, "Exactly." He never once asked what I made or what I paid for. He paid for his own dinners. He walked me to my car without insisting on anything more. The first time he reached for my hand, I almost pulled away out of instinct, because grasping usually meant obligation. But his hand just rested there, warm, steady, asking nothing. "You don't talk about your family much," he said once over coffee. "There's not much to say," I answered. "We're estranged now. That's just life." And I meant it. Still, Aunt Patricia called sometimes. Her voice carried both pity and hope. Your mom says Emma's working part-time at a call center. Tyler's still unemployed. They're all crammed into your parents' house, and it's not going well. Your father's picking up handyman jobs. Your mom's a cashier at the grocery. Rowan, don't you think it's been long enough? I closed my eyes. Patricia, I supported them for years. And what did I get? Theft, gaslighting, betrayal. They made their choices. I know, she said quietly. But they're still your family. So was I replied. Didn't stop them. The silence that followed was heavy. She didn't argue again. One afternoon, a letter arrived again, this time typed. The words were neat, clinical. Emma writing that she was still trying, that she was working to pay back Mom and Dad, that she hoped someday I could find it in my heart. Nowhere did she mention returning what she stole. Nowhere did she admit to laughing at me in my own house. It was apology as performance. I slid it back into the envelope and filed it in a drawer I didn't plan to open again. The cameras still watched, little red eyes blinking in the corners of my rooms, but they no longer felt like guards. They felt like witnesses, to the quiet, to my solitude, to my decision. I had thought guilt would eat me alive, that I'd cave one night when loneliness hit hardest. And sometimes it tried. I'd remember Dad teaching me how to patch drywall, or Mom braiding my hair before school, or Emma shrieking with joy the day she learned to ride a bike. Memories that painted over the rot for a moment. But then the other reel would play. Emma's smirk with my clutch in her hands, Tyler's laugh at my dinner table, Mom saying, "You tempt her," Dad typing only, disappointed. And the guilt would dissolve into clarity. In therapy, I asked, "What now? What does moving forward look like?" My counselor leaned forward. "Now you learn to have boundaries. You learn that love isn't letting people hurt you. You learn that you are more than what you provide." I let those words sink in, slow as honey, because she was right. Months later, I stood at my front door as the evening cooled, palm pressed against the wood the way I had the night I told them 7 days. Only this time, there was no pounding on the other side, no voices raised, no threat of betrayal pushing through the lock. Just stillness. The house was mine again. Every room, every drawer, every shelf. The keys jingling in my pocket belonged to me alone. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the provider, the fixer, the endless ledger of sacrifices. I was just Rowan. And that was enough. I chose myself, and I would never go back.